Welcome back to me weekly yarns. For those of you who's new to the channel, my name's Barry. I was talking to Lance Maskell from Australia and Shane Bush from America re parts and part numbers, and I was saying to Lance, he says because he runs his own business selling tractor spares, I says you must get sick of people coming in and going, have you got the what you may call you that fits into the thingy-majig, you know, on the back of the tractor? So Lance had sent us up some links to some websites where you can go on and get parts diagrams and more importantly, part numbers. At the same time, Shane from Alabama out in America, he's just putting a video onto his channel this week, Path to Discovery, regarding the searching of parts suppliers and part numbers. And on his video, if you nip along and have a look at his video, it's all about how to use the websites that are out there in order to search, find parts and part numbers and part suppliers. It's really good. Pop along, have a look at it. I've got some stuff here that I'm going to show you, and it's as typical of one of the websites that both Lance and Shane have referred to me. Invaluable material. All right, so I'm going to give you a quick look at this, and this is typical of what you're going to get out there, these websites. So you can see on these drawings here, we've got the full breakdown drawing of the component, which shows you all the little bits with the item numbers on. And if we scroll down, we find that the item numbers then transpose into what the item is, its part number, and when you come down to nuts and bolts and O-rings, it actually gives you, so for instance there, part 14 on this drawing, where part 14 there is a bolt, hexagonal head, 5/16 by 18 TPI, inch and 1/8, grade 5. And it says at the side of there in the notes section, set screw 5/16 UNC, inch and 1/8, special quadrant to Haugen. And it's got the part number, so you can order all the parts directly without having to, because in the past I've sent Stuart from Barclay Williams drawings like that because I didn't have a list of part numbers, and so you don't know the correct names and terminologies for them. So I've actually sent him an exploded diagram like this and said, have you got item 41? And Stuart, with his experiences, then interprets my instructions and sends me the appropriate parts. So that's going to stop now, Stuart. We're going to be able to email you or telephone you with part numbers in the future, which is a win-win, isn't it? Jolly good. Thank you so much, Lance. Thank you so much, Shane. As I say, pop along, watch Shane's video. It's really good, really informative. Give him a thumbs up, subscribe to him. Now, last week I put out on the community a question about my tractor, and it was, I showed you the number plate that was on my tractor when I bought it. There was no V5 with it, no other history. Then I bought it off a young man off a farm crossing Cumbria on, I think it was the 11th of January 2001. Popped across, picked it up, brought it home. Getting a load of good answers, loads of comments regarding the history of the tractor, trying to find the history of the tractor. Dave Turnbull came back and said, yeah, it would be really good to know the history, but we're still no further forward with it at the moment. Kenny and Dave Gregory both said contact DVLA. Dave Gregory actually had been onto the website, DVLA website, and had a look. He couldn't find any records. When I phoned DVLA the next day, again we got the same answer. There are no records relating to that number for any vehicle at all. The only thing we can do in terms of V5 and registration is to re-register it as a historical vehicle. We will get a plate that is reflective of its age. In other words, we looking at it now, it looks as if this tractor is somewhere between 1968 and 1971. Martin Clayton, you put a comment on which said look on the edge of the pump, and the last two numbers gives you the year of manufacture. Is that right? Martin, which pump are you on about? Are you on about the fuel injection pump, the DPA pump, or the hydraulic pump? Can you drop us a comment back and let us know, please, which pump to look at, so we can get onto it. As I say, I've been onto the Davy Brown Tractor Club site because I'm a member of Davy Brown Tractor Club. So I've been onto their site using the serial number, and it comes back as between 68 and 71. The serial number on my tractor is 810787. Looking at the batch of serial numbers between 68 and 71, I think that is a fairly later one. So it's probably 1970s, 1971, possibly. But at the minute, that's as much as we can find out. We cannot seem to get anything more related to the history of the tractor, unfortunately. We'll keep looking. Dave Turnbull, you put a comment on the video, I think it was about regarding the painting of the tractor. I replied to your comment, but when I went back into my studio page later on that day, my reply wasn't there, so I'll reply to it again. So you might have received two replies. I'm not sure. However, the second time I looked at your comment, it had a strike through, which was, you know, like instead of an underline, it had a little straight line straight through all the letters, and I'm not sure why it's done that. But it didn't have it on YouTube homepage. It's only got it in my studio page. So I'm not sure if that's got something to do with the fact that the comment, my reply to your comment, didn't go. I don't know. We'll have to have a look and see what's going on. I know there are problems with YouTube sometimes where you can't put live links into comments. Hence, I get a lot of people like Shane and Lance and people like that. They email me with links to pages or external websites, because apparently YouTube doesn't like you referring to external websites. Never mind. But Dave, thank you very much for the comments, mate. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. I suppose with a link back to just that previous topic there, Games Channel from Croatia messaged me earlier in the week and was asking if I knew where you could get a side mounted fuel gauge for his 885. Now apparently this fuel gauge, if you nip back to the other videos of mine, the flange on my fuel gauge has a ring of mounting holes around it that bolt onto the side of the tank. Apparently Games Channel's fuel gauge doesn't. It sits in a seat and is clipped in with a snap ring of some description. So again, what I've done is I put that out in the community. We've got some answers back. Lance was one who messaged back. And this morning I've just commented back to Games Channel with the link to the Pathway to Discovery, so you can go and have a look at it and you can do some searching online. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll find yourself a fuel sender for his 885. Let me know, Mr. Games Channel, let me know. I'm going to take you for a walk around in a couple of minutes, show you some little jobs we're going to get done this week sometime. With me newfound knowledge of parts and part numbers, I'm going to be talking to Stuart at Barclay Williams because I need part Kilo 624922, which is a spring that fits into the mechanism that goes back into that selector housing for the cam to run on off the end of the rock shaft. The little spring's missing that keeps the plate up. But as I say, having the part numbers now just makes life a lot easier, and with the exploded drones, so much better. David Monkhouse messages and was saying, did I know if the vacuum pressure switch off the back of my axle was working? he's made himself a little test rig to test the pressure switch. I'll show you mine in a minute when we go outside, David. I can guarantee it's not working because it's in half. I think what's happened is in a previous life someone's driven this tractor over some rough ground and it's been took off. There should be a plastic cap on the like a contact cap on the top where your spade fitting is missing. I think somebody's wiped it off either on a rock or on a fence post or something similar in this past. So I need to have a look around to find out. I might end up short term just simply because I think it's 8 BSP, that thread. I think I'll probably just end up putting a plug in there, but I'll show you the whole fittings in a couple of minutes. We're going to have a walk around. I'll show you a couple of fittings that we've got. Got a phone call off Gemma saying this little fella had been born. This is he's a couple of days old at this point, but he had been born a few days earlier, was in really poorly way. Couldn't stand up, couldn't drink, was absolutely... In fact, Gemma's little dog, Gemma's Cocker Spaniel, is bigger than this calf. Now, and this is typical of farmers. So you people out there, please don't tell me farmers don't love animals. Gemma slept for 2 nights with this little fella on her kitchen floor, feeding him, keeping him warm, making sure he survived. Now this is a couple of days later. He's now up on his feet, drinking about 4-5 litres of milk a day. And as you see here, we've got him outside now. He's in the stables, under heat lamps, with a rug on, keeping him going. But Gemma says now he's very vocal, he's up on his feet. Things are starting to look good for him, aren't they? John Perry, thank you very much for your kind wishes, sir. Very kind of you. I did reply to your comment. As I say, we're going to nip outside in a minute. I'll show you what I use, because John's asking what I use in terms of cleaning chemicals. Basically, I use red diesel, wash things off heavily with. If it's really heavily mucked, I just scrape things off, pressure wash them. Well, pressure wash at the minute's not working properly, but I tend to pressure wash, then wash with diesel, and then I've got this solution that I buy from the supermarket. I'll show you when I go out. Elbow grease. It's brilliant. I'll tell you what else is good for, and all cleaning your hands. If you're up to the elbows in grease and muck after doing a really dirty job, I give myself a wash with this elbow grease, get the thick off, especially like in your nails, get the thick off, then come straight in the house and give myself a good wash with soap and water. But I think it's £1 a bottle. If you go to Asda, it's £1 for half a litre. If you go to Morrison's, it's £1 for a full litre, and it comes in a squidgy bottle. I'll show you when we go outside. I swear by it. Again, if you put it on and leave it for some length of time, or you soak parts in it, I've noted in the past to be a really good paint stripper, or at least it loosens the paint, and then you can crack on and get it off with a wire brush. Speaking of cleaning, earlier this week, because we were waiting for the steel to arrive to make that gauge for the hydraulic settings, I nipped across the farm, picked up the footrests, and I've started cleaning off the footrests. I'll take you, as I say, when I'm outside, I'll show you the footrests. There was some welding snot on the side of it, where I think what had happened in the past is the bottom of the mudguard has rotted away, and I think the owner at that time has then welded on a piece of metal from the mudguard down to the footsteps to stabilise the bottom of the mudguard, probably stop the rubbish coming through onto his feet. So I had that to grind off and tidy up. Give you a quick look when we get outside. Right, so I think one of our biggest jobs that we started this week was these, the footrests. As I say, along here was welded on from here to here was some thin sheet steel that had been welded into place. So I had to grind all that off, clear the two holes out. These are quarter UNC. They're captive nuts underneath, and it must be for bolting obviously the side of the mud guard. Must have a little step on it and bolt down to here, and it must have rotted away, and they've come along and they've welded a piece in here. Still need to finish off. There's a bit of snot on here and a bit of snot on here to come off yet. Those two quarter screws out of there came straight out. That was no problem. I'm not sure though. I'm going to give them a great good pressure wash, and hopefully they'll come up clean. We'll see. We'll see how we'll get on with them. Those brake pedals might be a bit awkward to get a hold of in there, mightn't they? As I say, we'll see. Another little job I want to get done this week is this. It's the quadrant casting. I want the internals put back in, fasten on the push rod, because at the minute the push rod for the connection from your quadrant back to your valve chest is sticking out in fresh air and is vulnerable. It could potentially get damaged or bent. So I want this sorted out, put back on this week, at some point this week. This is something else I want put back on this week. Goes inside the selector Haugen casting, and your cam off the end of the rock shaft contacts here, and this controls with there's a cable. This is your cable from your sensing unit. This controls your valve chest when you're in draft control mode. So, and the spring that I need a spring to come from here up to a little housing on the top. Part number K624922. See, I know that now because of the website that Lance and Sean pointed me to. Thank you very much, gents. Really appreciate it. Just makes my life easier now when I'm ordering parts. No more thingy-majiggies that fit on the whatchamacallies. Look at the bend on that. This is the fitting, the brass fitting. Goes into the back of the PTO, the bottom, sorry, of the PTO casing, into the suction tube. So when the pump is sucking, it creates a vacuum in here that our switch goes onto. But unfortunately, somebody's wiped out the head of my switch, and the bend on that, what I'm assuming has happened is that has been in the tractor's gone across some rough ground, hit something and wiped this lot out, snapping that off and bending that. I might try and warm that up and straighten that. There's also in there, I don't know if you can see that, there's like a tiny little cap that's come off here. When I cleaned the suction pipe out, it was in the suction pipe where this sits in, and I don't know, it looks like some sort of like a cork type material. So we'll get it out, have a look at it. It's like a little stepped seat that sits in on top of that nozzle, goes into the back axle. This is something else I rattled off this week, just for stuff lying about. The only stuff I bought was the ply. I went to my local DIY shop and they do offcuts. So when you go in and you want 3/4 of a sheet and you want it cut, the quarter of a sheet, they've got a bin that they'll throw it into a bin that you can go along, and I paid £1 for all this. It's only thin stuff, but I made a box to put the injector pump in, and in there in there. In there I've got my handle. I've got a little rack at the side for to put the pipe work into. I mean nuts and bolts that fasten it down to my angle irons. I made this little box because I just knew that sitting on the shelf down there it would get knocked over and damaged. I just put it in it's in a polythene bag just to stop any diesel that's possibly weeping out the reservoir. So let's get our bits put away. And I put in here as well the spare, got a little frame set at the bottom there so it sits in the frame. This is the spare pump. No, sorry. This is the spare gauge, the replacement gauge that came with it. We'll just pop everything in there. So with it being thin ply, the door warped. So I just put a screw in the top of there to keep it shut. And that'll keep it safe. You see here the shaft sticks out. So I'll get that casting put on to protect that. This morning, came in, set the screw on the side with the, the oil return pipe in here, popped that back into the side of the valve chest, screwed that up, just locked that up gently. John Perry, elbow grease, that's what that's, pound for that, that's 500ml from Asda. Now, that's the bottles you get from Morrison's. Extra large elbow grease, 1 litre. That was also a pound. Now, when I was last up at Morrison's, up at Amble, they had quite a few of these, and I think I bought about 3 or 4 of them at that time. So I've been using it. It is really good stuff. I like it. As I say, if I'm up to the elbows in grease and muck, I wash my hands in this first, then nip in, quick soap and water job on there. Job's a good one. Right. I know at some point when somebody says to you, what chemicals do you use? And you go, elbow grease. Some people think you're being a bit funny with them, and in so much that you mean just work harder. Well, I really don't. I mean, elbow grease is brilliant stuff. Right, ladies and gents, that's it for this week's weekly yarn. We're caught up on what we've been doing. Hopefully we're going to get that casting sorted out for next week. Get that put on. I'll video that, building that up and putting it back on, and we'll pop that out sometime during the week, hopefully. Right, as I say, thank you very much for your time. Thanks very much for visiting. As always, your support is greatly appreciated, really is. And don't forget, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, like and subscribe. Drop us a comment about anything. Pop onto the community area. You might be able to help somebody out with a couple of answers that they need. Don't forget, visit Shane Bush's Path to Discovery channel. Have a look at his videos. He's got some really good information in there. And remember, don't overthink it. It's just nuts and bolts. See you in the next one. Stay safe now. Bye.